Hi guys, it's Mr. Jackson here to read chapter 25 of Everwild by Neal Shusterman with permission from Simon and Schuster. And as you can see, we are starting part 5 today. So, part 5, The Skin Jacker Revelations. In Tips for Taps, Chapter 5, entitled, What You Don't Remember Can't Hurt You, Mary Hightower writes, Memory is a strange thing in Everlost. The afterlight mind is like a toy box in a toddler's room. If a precious memory is taken out of the box to be pawed and fondled, chances are it won't get back into the box. Consequently, the only way to hold on to a memory in Everlost is never to think about it. Chapter 25, Lair of the Cat Woman. When it came to memory, Mary's observations didn't hold true for skinjackers. Unlike Nick, Allie never forgot her last name. It was Johnson. With such a common last name, however, locating her parents in Memphis was not an easy matter. Her parents' names were Adam and Andrea, so naturally they chose A names for their daughters. There were 10 Adams, 2 Andreas, and more than 100 A. Johnsons in the Memphis phone book. She had already determined that both their cell phone numbers had been disconnected, so Allie would have to skinjack someone and start making cold calls. It had to be done by skinjacking. She already knew that. She didn't know whether or not the gravity of home would apply here, but she didn't want to take the chance. Showing up at her family's new house and witnessing their lives moving forward without her might turn the ground to quicksand, just as standing on her old doorstep had. Besides, she had another compelling reason to skinjack. The Everlost wind. It was uncanny and maddening, a gale force that only afterlights could feel, blasting off the Mississippi River. 5 miles east of Memphis, where she and Milos had parted company, the wind was just a breeze. But the closer one came to the river, the more powerful the wind grew, and since Memphis rested right on the river's east bank, there was no way to escape it. Allie skinjacked a tourist walking toward the river to see what this was all about. From within a fleshie, there seemed to be nothing unusual at all. The river appeared normal, but then she made the mistake of peeling out of the tourist right by the riverbank. The wind caught her like a hurricane, whistling in her ears, scrambling her thoughts. She struggled against it, but in the end, it lifted her off her feet and tumbled her head over heels through building after building, until she was far enough away to find her balance again. In this city, and presumably any place on the east bank of the Mississippi, the only way to resist the wind was to skinjack. Therefore, negotiating Memphis required her to skinjack on a regular basis. It was a challenge because Allie had never stayed fleshbound for long periods of time. The longest had been the recent drive with Milos, Moose, and Squirrel as they drove to Memphis in the bodies of a family. That had taken just a few hours, and Allie had found that peeling out had been like trying to take off a wetsuit that was 2 sizes too small. The task of finding and approaching her family would require a very specific kind of host, but who to choose? There were so many variables. Allie had to create herself a checklist of all the things that her host should and should not be. It had to be someone her parents would invite inside. If she skinjacked a delivery man, as she had done when she approached her old house in New Jersey, it wouldn't be good enough. With a delivery man, as her host, any encounter would be brief and only over the threshold of the front door. What she needed was not just a way to get the door open, but a way to get through it. 2. It had to be someone they would feel comfortable talking with about the accident. When she finally got inside their new home, she didn't want to talk about the weather and current events. She wanted to know how it all played out and somehow give her parents, her sister, and maybe herself some comfort and closure. 3. It had to be someone who would not be missed for multiple skinjackings. If Allie was to use someone's body as a base of operations, it would be a nuisance if that person had a demanding job or a whole lot of personal responsibilities. 4. It had to be someone who would not notice the lost time themselves. A suspicious fleshy was the worst kind of host. Best to choose someone who wouldn't be aware that something unusual was going on, or at least could come up with a logical explanation for the missing time. With all these things to consider, Allie was undecided for days, shuttling from person to person, hiding within them, observing them, thinking she had the perfect host, but then changing her mind. Ellie finally settled on a woman who lived alone, except for a multitude of cats that came and went through the pet door. By Allie's observations, the woman's life was simple and predictable. Tending to the cats, watching TV, crocheting, taking an afternoon nap. No one bothered her, and she bothered no one else. She was the perfect host for a long-term project. When the woman lay down for her nap at 2 o'clock the following afternoon, Allie skinjacked her, and her detective work began. The first few phone calls determined that none of the Adams and Andreas listed were her parents. So she went on to the countless A. Johnsons. The idea that one of her parents' live voices could be at the other end of any phone call made her borrowed heart race, but mostly she got answering machines, which was a relief each time. The first day, all she did was make calls, but not a single A. Johnson had been her mother or her father, and what few Memphis relatives she knew by name must have been unlisted too. After 3 hours of unsuccessful phone calls, Allie began to doubt everything. What if the people in New Jersey were wrong and her parents didn't come to Memphis? What if her father died in the accident after all? Allie began to despair in her own emotional turmoil began to wake the woman. Losing control of a fleshy was like slipping on wet ice. Once you lost control, it was hard to get it back. And Allie was slip-sliding like crazy. The woman awoke, took over her own body, and Allie quickly hid behind the woman's thoughts, which, without proper preparation, was like hiding behind window curtains. Now, there was only a slim veil between her consciousness and Allie's. Any powerful thought would reveal her presence, and she tried not to think at all. My. 5:30, long nap. My. How did I get into the kitchen? My. I didn't leave that phone book out, did I? My. Allie knew peeling out of the woman wouldn't be easy. Having been in her for more than 3 hours, but she didn't want to linger inside either. She peeled out while the woman was distracted, tending to the cats. But after 3 whole hours, this wasn't like peeling off a wetsuit. It was more like ripping off a Band-Aid. It was sharp and shocking. The woman gasped and fell back into a chair, her hand on her chest. Then, when the woman caught her breath, she went around the house checking that all the locks were secure, as if she sensed an intruder. So much for not raising suspicion. Now, Allie was back in the wind. Not strong enough to knock her off her feet, but disorienting nonetheless. She skinjacked someone driving through the neighborhood. Then, when she got to a more crowded street, she soul surfed from car to car until she was far enough away from the river that the wind was bearable. She spent the night knees to chest on a roadside dead spot the size of a basketball, considering what her next move should be. It was somewhere around midnight that it struck Allie how amazingly stupid she had been. Her investigative technique was stuck in Nancy Drew mode, which might have been fine when the cat woman was her age, but not in this day and age. Allie should have been much more forward-thinking. This, after all, was the age of information. Why would anyone need a phone book when they had email addresses? Allie returned the following day to discover that the cat woman was cutting edge. In her spare room, she had a laptop that picked up a neighbor's wireless network. Of course, her internet favorites list contained things like the Crocheting Club of America, but it was good to know that even the hopelessly old-fashioned and questionably batty could still be web-savvy. Now, Allie had a plan. She waited until the woman took her afternoon nap, jacked her the instant the woman's head hit the pillow, and went straight for the laptop. First, Allie created a new email address, catwomanjacker@yahoo.com. The question was, why would the catwoman have a reason to email Allie's parents? Allie had the perfect solution. The catwoman bore a slight resemblance to Mrs. Wintuck, one of Allie's old teachers. Of course, the hair was the wrong color and a little too straight, but that could be dealt with. Allie felt confident that this woman could pass for Mrs. Winthrop, at least when it came to her parents. So she composed an email using both her parents' email addresses as recipients, making it urgent. Mr. and Mrs. Johnson, I'm not sure if you remember me. My name is Sarah Winthrop. I was your daughter Allie's 4th grade teacher. Having left New Jersey myself several years ago, I never heard about what happened to her until recently. I'm so terribly sorry. My heart goes out to you. I will be visiting Memphis all this week and would love the opportunity to meet with you. Allie thought for a moment, then added, I have some fond memories of your daughter that I know she would have wanted me to share with you. Sincerely, Sarah Winthrop. Now, there was nothing to do but wait. Within 5 minutes, the mailer Damon sent back her father's email as undeliverable and non-existent. Allie's heart sank in the old woman's chest, and she stared numbly at the screen. It was her mother who had relatives in Memphis. Could it be that her father died in the crash? She tried to dismiss the notion and see the glass as half full. Her mother's email was not bounced back. That was a positive sign. She waited for a response from her mother, filling her time by tending to all those mewling cats who kept jumping up on the table, competing for her attention. By 6 o'clock, no response had come, and Allie knew she couldn't stay much longer. She lay down on the bed, peeled out of the woman, and the shock of it jarred the woman awake. The cat woman bolted up in bed, then once more chastised herself for sleeping the day away and checked the locks again. The next day, when the Catwoman lay down for her nap, she set her alarm clock for 1 hour. It did no good, because the moment Allie skinjacked her, she turned the alarm off. There was a single email waiting for catwomanjacker@yahoo.com. Allie felt the woman's body become light-headed and with nervous anticipation. She took slow, deep breaths, waited until the wave of dizziness passed, and then Allie opened the email. Miss Wintruck, thank you for your note. It would be wonderful to catch up with you. Any time after 5, any day this week would be fine. Perhaps you could come over for dinner. The address is 42 Springdale Street. Let me know if you need directions and when you'd like to stop by. Sincerely, Andrea Johnson. Allie pushed away from the computer so quickly she nearly fell over backward in the chair. A cat jumped up on the laptop, opening several random windows. It must have hit the reply button as well, because the top window was an empty reply just waiting for Allie to fill it in with words. Allie told her mother she would be there at 6:30 tonight. Then she went out to buy hair color and a curling iron. So, that was chapter 25. What did you think? So I have a couple questions. First of all, do you think it was okay or right for Allie to spend so much time skinjacking this old woman? What do you think? Second, why or what, how do you think Allie will feel, and what do you think will happen when she goes and visits her mom? Finally, a little bit unrelated, what do you think the wind is about? Like, do you think there's a purpose to the wind? Any predictions? Yeah, so that's it. Hope you're doing well. Miss you. See you tomorrow. Bye.